Hello, tutors. We do tutor training with you at various times throughout the year and try to prepare you for as many of the different scenarios that you encounter as you tutor students in our labs and individually. However, we also do find that there's lots of different scenarios and lots of different students. And so you learn a lot by just tutoring on the job. So, as our seniors are graduating soon, we wanted to catch each one and try to glean from them some tips and wisdom to pass on to you. So enjoy these clips from our seniors as they share their tips and wisdom.
The biggest way that I've grown since when I started tutoring was learning to prepare before my tutoring sessions. So I normally take like 5-10 minutes just before my session, or even at the beginning of the session if no students have come, to just look over what material the students are going to be working on. And that gives me a chance to anticipate what questions they might ask, as well as just remind myself how to do that type of material.
Over time, I've developed different ways to find ways to process and communicate ideas, both for the tutor and the student. And yeah, this could be done like by verbally walking through a problem. Like the student could do that, and that would help them process the problem a little bit and give you an idea of what they know, what they don't know, catch some mistakes. Maybe there's they missed a conceptual understanding, or they made just tiny little errors, or maybe they misunderstood the problem in the first place.
I've appealed to different learning styles. As we know, there's kinesthetic learning, auditory, and visual. And so a lot of my tutoring goes to the whiteboards, and I just will write out problems and kind of emulate what going through a problem looks like. And this kind of incorporates all different learning styles. And so I'll talk through each row of like why we're doing this step for mathematical problems, and that seems to really help. And then for those kinesthetic learners, I encourage them to go to the board, and I'll give another question, and then they'll try to work through that.
I would just say like connecting with the course load, getting to know the students a lot, and making connections with them really helped me figure out like their needs and how I could help them in that. And then just growing in patience really helped me a lot to become a better tutor, and like walking alongside those students as they struggled, and being okay with that. Like it's okay for them to struggle, and sitting there with them.
I think one of the biggest things for me is being able to be a TA for one of the classes that you're tutoring. You get to stay on pace with where they're at throughout the entire semester of where they're at in their course, and then you also get to know the students as well.
I think something I've done to strengthen my tutoring skills would be growing empathy for students. I feel like asking for help is a very difficult thing, and so being able to meet students where they're at and kind of put yourself in their shoes and understand the frustration and sometimes anxiety that goes into this helps them feel more comfortable and more open to receiving help.
Some things that I've done to strengthen my tutoring skills are just reviewing with the professors or reviewing with some of the students. A lot of it has been working directly with the students, asking them where they are at in the course, and just making connections with them in that way. One way that I have really grown as a tutor is just asking more questions for the students and just seeing what is actually going on, because I know it's been a while for me for the courses. So just being able to ask questions and know that you don't have to be the person with all of the answers has been really helpful for me.
I think one of the main ways I've grown as a tutor is just knowing that it's okay to not have the full answer right away, and it's okay to work with students through it. When I first started as a tutor, I think I always was really anxious wanting to have the perfect answer right away and some really nice solution laid out for them, but just learning, getting some confidence and knowing that it's okay to work through it with them, and they'll be a good resource for you too, the students. And so that's probably the main way I've grown.
I think one of the biggest challenges is whenever you have someone come into, say, math lab or CS lab, everybody has a different learning style and a different way of going about math. People have varying degrees of their experience in math, how comfortable they are in math. And so one of the toughest things is engaging people where they're at. And the thing I've found over however many years I've been doing this now, is if you can invite a lot of different voices or invite other tutors over or group them with people or get them collaborating with people, they're able to learn however they might need to learn. So if you're just one-on-one, the challenge is trying to adapt to however they need to learn. But if you can get them in a scenario where they can learn together with people, then I think that's something that I've really learned that is helpful over my time.
It takes a lot of time to become a good tutor, and so just sit in that and lean into that and know that you're going to struggle at first, just like the students are struggling. But just looking up to the lead tutors and the tutors around you and growing with them, that really helped me as a new tutor.
I wish I had known that it was okay not to know everything. I think the expectation is coming in that you're supposed to have a handle on everything in your course, and you feel weird saying, "Oh, I'm not sure on this problem," or "I don't know how to go about this." And I wish I knew that it was okay to not know everything. And I think that gets tossed around a bit, but I really wish tutors would know that it's okay to say, "I'm not sure on this problem," or invite another tutor in as well to help them, because what that does is it puts them and the student on more of an equal footing. The student feels way more comfortable actually when a tutor says, "I don't actually know how to do this," because they feel validated in how difficult the subject matter is that they're working through. It makes the tutors seem way more approachable and comfortable to be around. So I wish that I knew that it was okay to not know how to do everything.
Just how much you can rely on your coworkers and the other people working in Math Lab, and that you can go to them with questions, ask them about problems or good ways to explain a solution. Even if you feel like you understand a concept, sometimes it's helpful to hear the ways another person explains it, and just get that different viewpoint.
I wish I would have known that just because one explanation works for one student doesn't mean it's going to work for all students. Everybody has very different learning styles, whether it's visual versus verbal versus top-down processing. So making sure that you confirm the student's learning style before going on with an explanation can be really helpful.
One thing I wish I had known as a new tutor was that I can ask questions to the other tutors. I don't have to know all of the answers, and just really relying on the students as well, asking them what they already know and bringing that information out. That's been super helpful, and just being able to lean on the other tutors has been really, really a great thing in building that community with the other tutors.
I wish I had known that nobody ever says no to the question, "Do you understand something?" Every time I've asked that question, the student says yes. And that can happen even if they don't actually understand the material. And so I found it's much more useful to ask them, can you walk me through your thought process on some section of what they've been working on? And that way you can get an honest picture of how much they understand the material.
Learning how to ask better questions and leading questions so that the student is telling you the information rather than you giving it to the student. And also being okay with silence, giving space for the student to actually answer the questions you're giving them.
I've been tutoring for 3 years now for the Ask Office, and the main thing is just learning to really lean in to when there's challenges and when I don't know the answer to something, and to really illustrate that it's okay to not know the answer. I think that's a great model for students because I was there once. I had to go through the problem, and so just to show that it's okay to not know the answer, but still have perseverance.
My biggest tip would be just to be friendly with everybody in the room, whether it's the other tutors or the students. Just get to know them as people and try to diminish that gap between students and tutors. And that way you can have a lot easier time helping them, and it'll be more enjoyable for everybody involved.
Welcome every student in with a warm smile. A lot of students come in and they're really trepidatious about coming in at first. And so just welcoming them in and knowing that they feel like they can be there and ask questions, that takes off a lot of the initial anxiety, and then it seems that they're more open to asking questions and asking for help.
At this point, you've probably become comfortable with the content you're teaching and the environment you're in, math lab, CS lab. Just remember to put yourselves in the students' shoes, especially for those new students. It would help to rewind back and think of what you were expecting, what you learned, and what was like really a big takeaway when you first visited math lab or CS lab, and apply that to how you deal with the students, with how you relate to them. As they enter the room, acknowledge them, for example. Say hi to make them feel like they're part of the room right away. And starting the conversation not on the content, but on just the simple things like, oh, how are you? How's your day? Stuff like that.
I would say something that took me a while to figure out is in downtime or in slow times, when a student has come in but they maybe don't have questions right away, to just ask them what they're working on, and maybe just read through that chapter and kind of refresh yourself a little bit. It helps a lot then when they finally do ask a question, to be able to just hit the ground running with them rather than maybe reviewing the chapter to learn the concept again yourself. So just being active even in slow times makes the job a lot easier.
I would just say enjoy it, have fun with it. You're serving your students, and so walk alongside them and other tutors and that, and know that have fun. Walk into it knowing that you're serving people and that you're doing God's work. Look around the atmosphere that's around you and learn in it. It makes you a better person, a better tutor, and you have a lot more fun. So I would just say really have fun with it. That's why I enjoyed tutoring so much.
I think the biggest tip, again, is being able to put yourself in the student's shoes and remember that they're feeling really frustrated and nervous right now, and just being able to be like a calming presence to them, just to not only just like give them answers to homework, but just to be there as like an emotional support as well, because it can be
A tip that I have for current tutors is just to be yourself and build relationships with the students. They are students first and foremost, but they're also people. So building relationships with them, having fun with them, making sure that the environment that they're in is a good environment. It can be kind of stressful to come into math lab and not know what you're doing. And so just really being there for students to kind of calm them down and just talk about how life is going in general is something that is really helpful too.
I think my biggest tip or my biggest challenge would be learn how to be a humble tutor. The thing that brings people in to say math lab or CS lab is that they need help or that they might need answers checked. But what consistently brings back students is people who can be approachable and humble about the subject matter that they're teaching. If there's just this disconnect between the tutor and the student where it's kind of this rickety, you give me answers or help, but I don't feel very comfortable around you, then they might find a different way to go about learning or try to find different ways. So building relationships with your students and being humble and being approachable is probably the biggest thing for students. If they feel like they're talking to this far off math god that knows everything about the course, then it's tough for students. I've seen students who have teared up in math lab. I've seen students who have had their panicky moments, and if you can meet them where they're at and meet them at the math that they're comfortable at, then that goes a long way.